I got it. Hi, everybody. G'day. My name's Naomi. I'm an Australian. I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, a little bit. I hate this. I hate the nerves about this. I've handed over, like it's Sunday here, noon, and I've said my morning prayer and I've asked him to inspire my thinking and free me from doubt and indecision and guide me through this day with no fear. And yet I'm shaking in my boots. I've been my sobriety date's the 30th of October, 1998. I'll do the math for you. It's 27, I think, years a day at a time of sobriety. I do have a home group. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. Why wouldn't I? Um, I apologize in advance to the people that have heard me before because, seriously, my stories just hasn't changed because, I've never left these rooms. I'm a very typical, look, I don't know whether look for the similarities, don't ignore the differences. And I don't know whether I'm right or I'm wrong in how I've tackled my sobriety and my journey, but it is mine. And, I just put one foot in front of the other and keep going. Um, I was born into an alcoholic home my dad was a war veteran and Second World War veteran. And I don't know whether if you know history or if you want to get onto Google when you get off here, he was a rat to Brook, in the Second World War, and he fought. He's a hero. They're all heroes. But he came home with undiagnosed. Back in the day, it was called, I don't know, get over it, get on with it, get married, have four kids. But I think in today's language, it's called post-traumatic stress disorder. Look, I do talk a lot of lingo, strine. I do have, yeah, I do drop words that you might not understand, but I'll explain them as I go. Um, and when I was growing up in this home, my dad, they're South Australian, and they came over to Melbourne after the war, and they built homes in those days. My grandfather, my uncle, but Dad was an alcoholic, and my life at this place was a little weatherboard house in Ball, a little suburb here, which is now quite wealthy. Um, but I was born into an alcoholic Catholic home. I was the youngest of four. I've got three older brothers. And I was just a lonely kid. It's written in the big book of how we felt. I felt lost and inferior, scared, frightened, even before I picked up alcohol. Life at home was, my dad was, I love him dearly. He's passed away, obviously, well, not obviously, but he has. Um, very big. He was like a sergeant major in the army, and a lot of discipline and frightening discipline, especially around the kitchen table at night, And I'm not we'd have to sort of sit there and chew your food, Naomi, 32 times, before you swallow it. And you've got cauliflower in your mouth, and I'm not a cauliflower eater, or a vegetable eater. And I had to go to my room after dinner and do my homework. And, bless their cotton socks, my parents did everything in their power to give me a good education and give me a good home. But I was a frightened person inside. And I felt less than. I didn't get on with my mum, and I still don't know today why I didn't. I actually felt a bit unloved. I've never had my mum put her arms around me and just say, I love you. But I think also that's a generation. Um, and I remember growing up in this home, mum went out to do some work to send me to a Catholic secondary school. It was a convent. Oh man, Catholic convent, all girls. For me, it was horrific. But they had great sporting fields. I love sport and I played sport and I watched sport, and I'm still a sporting addict. But when I got home from school, no one was home. And it was a spooky home. I used to look across the road. My cousins lived across the road, and I used to go across there. And my auntie would make cups of tea and bake cakes and pick up the kids from school. And it was sort of like normal. And that was my safety net to go over there because they weren't drinking, they weren't fighting. Um, Home was terrifying for me. And, I picked up a drink at 16. Um, and I went to, as I said, a convent. And it was a very strict convent. You had to wear hats and gloves. And, we're talking 40 degrees outside today. In summer, I had to wear hats and gloves. And it was a very disciplinarian sort of place. Um, it was full of going to church and confession and all those, and discipline and respect. And that's what I brought out of that education, respect, because that's what was instilled into me. And there's nothing wrong with the word respect. Anyway, I went to a primary school too, and I always remember going to primary school, and I used to have to catch the tram, and I used to always remember looking at the people on the tram that I'd missed and saying, "Hey, where are you going?" Because I wanted to go where they were going. And like I'm all of my, junior school and secondary school, but I didn't want to go where I was going, which was school, because it was a very wealthy school and I felt less than and I felt intimidated by the girls. And so I played a victim even though I didn't have to, because they're on the same level as me. They're just human beings. But I obviously had the ism of alcoholism in me already. So I picked up this drink at 16. I went to a school dance and the boy I took bought a bottle of ouzo, of all things, ouzo. Mind you, I've never touched ouzo again. And we went to a pre-dance, pre-drink thing, and all the girls were all in their pretty dresses, that their mums had made or bought. My dad worked for Kaiser, and my mum was a good sewer, so she fixed this long, beautiful nightie and put special buttons on it. And I thought I was, it in a bit. But I still felt less than because it was a homemade item. And as I said, I clashed with my mum because she made my clothes. She made puffy sleeve dresses. Pink. I know I've got pink on today. God, what's happened to me? I don't wear pink. And she'd make these dresses, and I had my hand-me-down clothes from my brother because we're talking post-war. We're talking a dad that was working and mum not at the time and four kids trying to put food on the table. Huge respect for them in that era. Um, anyway, I resented mum and I spent my whole life trying to get her approval. And I don't know what that's about. And it took me 20 years in sobriety, or probably about 3 or 4 years, to actually go to the cemetery and just say, Mum, I love you, and miss her. I actually miss my mum today. And that's the gifts of sobriety. Anyway, back to my story with the ouzo. I went to this dance and I know I made a fool of myself. And I know that I don't remember anything about that night. I mean, mind you, I was 16, I'm now 70, like it's a bloody long time ago. But I still don't remember anything. All I know is I had a blackout. And look, I looked about 12 and I didn't pick up another drink till I was about 18. And I remember my 18th birthday. I remember what I wore. I wore a lemon dress with my hair in a ponytail with a big yellow, oh God, it was how disgraceful, with a big yellow bow, going off to a pub. And I looked 10. So I had to carry my ID with me everywhere. Because I looked about 12. But as soon as I walked into this pub, I just was home. The sticky floors, the smell, the noise, the smoke, the boys, the drinking, and I loved it. I'm just such an alcoholic. I think from the word go, I drank alcoholically. I've never, I don't know anyone that's an alcoholic that's put down a glass of wine and come back and said, I'll have some later. I drank out of bottles. I drank out of flagons, and flagons are these dirty big bottles. I fell in a fireplace because I was so drunk. The bottle was so heavy, and I fell over into a fireplace and burnt my leg. You know, um, I was a mess. I danced on tables. I fell off tables. Um, I lived in a Naomi bubble of fear, of hard work. Um, Always playing the victim. It was them, those, and that. That's why I drank so much, not knowing I was an alcoholic. I know we're always the last one to understand alcoholism in our families and in ourselves. Um, but I'm typical alcoholic. I had blackouts. I was a huge drink driver. I used to drive, with the window down. I'm old. I've got an old car here, the old wind down window, one eye shut, going up a road here called Warrigal Road, in fear of the police at some ungodly hour of the night, And it's written in the big book. That pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization of a human being, a woman. I don't know about a man, but I tell you what, I experienced that every time I drank. Um, you know, if it wasn't me with a boyfriend, I was after your boyfriend or your husband. I was looking for that hole. I was looking for that to fill that hole, thinking it would fix it by looking for a bloke. And it wasn't that's not it, as you obviously know. Um, I was a person that could fall upstairs. I fell downstairs. I woke up, the alcoholic dawn when you wake up, and the birds are singing, and you've come to, and you've been in a blackout all night. That's if you're lucky enough to get home, or you're finding the key to the front door. Or who are you? Where's my car keys? Where's my car? And who are you? Like, it's the most frightening experience to have as a woman. I'm sure it is, as I said, for a man, but for a woman, it's degrading and demoralizing. And then I won't do that again. And the promises to that God, that promises to that God, I promise I won't do that again. And I just forget. The hangovers weren't so bad. I made excuses for my behavior all the way through. And my mum and dad, being alcoholic, mum, I don't know where the mum was. I mean, she used to boil her alcohol to get the alcohol out and then drink it. So I'm assuming she was an alcoholic. I don't want to take their inventory. I know my dad was. And my three brothers are. One brother's passed away since. My oldest brother's in the program. My other brother's a vet, and he probably should be. And my other brother dropped dead about 10 years ago from associated reasons of this disease, along with a bad heart. He dropped dead, and he was dead before he hit the floor. And I was a person that would have dinner. I got married, had kids, and my husband was quite a good cook at the time. He's my ex now, and we'd have dinner parties, and they'd get all that really good Penfolds top crappy stuff out, and sip it and say, "Oh, that's nice tannin and nice this," and then I'd go into the kitchen and get the roast out of the oven, drop a couple of potatoes on the floor and chuck them back in the pan, and then fill up my glass with more booze. And I was drinking, I think you call it boxed wine, we call it cask wine. I was drinking cask wine, you know, and 4 liters of it. I couldn't get enough into me. And the only thing I didn't drink, this is hilarious for me, is port. I didn't drink port because it gave me a hangover. Come on. I mean, talk about denial, you know. It gave me a hangover, and I didn't drink vodka because I wanted to monitor how much I was drinking. And yet I always crossed a line. What line are we talking about here? I crossed a line when I was born. I crossed a line every single time I was anywhere near booze. All the time I was crossing a line. I would just go out, cross a line, and none of this drinking in between, with water and wine or water and wine. I mean, how stupid is it? I'm not, gee, it was hard work. And if I wasn't doing it, I was thinking of it. And when I started drinking, the pubs used to shut at 10 o'clock, and you go into a little bit of a meltdown because, it's 10 o'clock. I always had a plan B in readiness for the next drama of my life. Life was a drama. When I got married, my husband drank the same as me, and I found marriage really hard to this man at the end because I wanted to drink the way I wanted to drink. And sadly, the marriage fell down because of my drinking. I did geographicals with jobs and people. I've lost friends, I've lost jobs. When I was growing up, I wanted to be, I think I wanted to be a copper. I can't remember. I think I wanted to be a copper, a police person. Um, or a person to do social work. I wanted to help people. But I know that my drinking took over any desire for me to get ahead. And I ended up being a secretary, and I got great admin skills and great organizational skills, but I changed jobs a lot because I was always going out for lunch, for a liquid lunch, and then the boss would get back at 5 o'clock and he'd say, can you photocopy some documents? And I said, no, I'm going home, because I wanted some more booze. So I was unreliable, very unreliable person. I had a Jekyll and Hyde personality. I did a drink and dial in the middle of the night with girlfriends. Woe is me. What's he done? Where are they going? I didn't get invited. All that stuff, that low self-esteem victim stuff. I'm just a typical alcoholic. Always the first to arrive and the last to leave, and always. I was at a meeting last night, and I saw these young boys, cute little boys. I don't know how old they're, 17, 18 or something, with a six pack of beer, and I went, oh God, aren't they so cute? I could never walk along with a six pack. I wanted a 4 litre cask of wine, and I would have driven. So if I'd run out, I'd go to the pub and get some more. And I was thinking about them at the because it's warm down here, and I was just thinking, I'll bet you anything they're just going into someone's backyard and sitting around a pool and having a little sip and I sort of thought it brought back memories of what I was like or what I was not like, and I never want to forget that I'm an alcoholic and I'm just a drunk. I was a daily top up, fall down, insecure drunk. And by the time I got into these rooms, I was skinny as a rake. I was yellow. I was yellow as yellow. I had no idea. I had the shakes. I had alcoholic diarrhea. And I was a ranting, raving lunatic, just a lunatic. And those poor kids, you know, they didn't get to go to the park. They were getting burnt sausages and shocking food at night. And then I'd invite every man and his dog over to my house to have a party after school, and there was no discipline, no homework. Um, and it was horrible. There's nothing good about drinking for me. I had to have the morning drink to stop the shakes, and that was right at the end of my drinking. Um, and I remember I was smoking at the time, and I remember blaming it on the cigarettes, that morning drink, and you've got to stop the shakes. I didn't get my hangovers in the head. I got mine all in the stomach. And I was just thinking, if someone said to me, oh, do you want to go out up the street and get some McDonald's, sorry, I'd say I couldn't think of anything worse than drinking, nothing than eating. Nothing could cure my hangover except the hair of the dog and more. And I remember one night coming home, been to a barbecue on a Sunday, and I was driving home, and I don't remember where this was, and it terrifies me today. And I was driving home, and I was driving up a hill. I think I was going in the wrong direction. Anyway, I actually shut my eyes, and I ran into the back of a guy going to work who had a trailer, and he stopped, and he was so kind. But I remember going to church when I got home and sitting in the front pew and just saying to God, "Oh, I won't do that ever again. I'm sorry. If you let me get through this day, I'll promise I won't do it." And of course, like I was only in my 20s. I got in here when I was 43. Um, and it was just all the promises to the wrong God, the God of that I was brought up with. I had no concept of that God. It was a punishing God for me, uh, that made me go to church on a Sunday and then come home and have a fight with my parents. It was a God that made me go to confession and all those, the Catholic education. But today, I look back and I think, it put me in in good position for where I am today. Um, Look, booze took away my dignity, it took away me, it took away everything. Um, and then the last 6 months of my drinking, I said, it was really, really hard. I couldn't work. And I was just in full flight alcoholism. But there was just this one day where I'll get into my recovery, and it was a Wednesday night. The kids were going to their dad's, and it was a Thursday morning I came to, and I never want to forget the scene I was in and I remember it today. I was renting a house and all the curtains were drawn. I was sitting on a couch, had my feet on a coffee table, and I was drinking. I was still drinking. It was 10 o'clock in the morning. And my brother calls it shadow collapso. And I was still drinking. And I said, oh my God. And I just remember saying, I can't do this anymore. I felt sick and I rang him and I said, Ab, I think I've got a problem. And he laughed. And he said, do you think so? And I went, yes. He said, but you're not drinking now, are you? And I said, yes, I am. I was full of tears and remorse and demoralization and, everything that goes with, when you throw in the towel. And he gave me the number of our secretary, the office, central office down here, and I rang them, and they said something really weird to me. They said, "Do you want to go to a meeting?" I said, "Yes." And then they said something even weirder, if that's a word. They said, "Try not to drink today," and I went, "What? Huh? What's that all about?" And I couldn't do that. I didn't know it's the first drink, so. I topped up big on that day, and I got picked up by a woman and taken to my first meeting in Burwood, which is just up the road in a church. They seem to be all in the churches. And I remember walking down the steps. And once again, I never want to forget that scene. I was walking down the steps on a Thursday night, and I remember this girl, Debbie, looking at me and smiling. And then I walked into this meeting room, and I tell you what, take your hat and coat off your home. Come right in, sit right down. How beautiful was that? I walked in and I did. I took my hat and coat off. I sat in the back, looked at the carpet, which was all dirty and green, I think. Um, and I don't remember much about the meeting except one woman shared about the fact that she couldn't do her ironing, she couldn't do her housework. She was just about to lose her son because of her drinking. And as much my kids were a noose around my neck in my drinking, I didn't want to lose them. But that's not what happened. That's not why I threw in the towel. God, grace of God, grace of God most definitely got me that night. Whatever was in that room, I felt it. And I feel it today in rooms that I go to. Not all of them. But I went to a meeting last night and it's definitely in there. That spiritual, overwhelming, beautiful, take your hat and coat off your home, come right in, sit right down. Oh God, we are the luckiest people walking earth. Um, I got home from my first meeting and by then when you drink out of something large. And well, I used to think if I just drink out of a bottle, I won't be as bad. So I had a bottle of red wine in the cupboard in the linen press, and it was probably about a $3 bottle of wine, really expensive, right? Like tasted like vinegar. It was disgusting. And I ripped off the top and I drank it. And not the whole lot, but this is my story. And I'm sorry you've heard it before. I looked at my watch, it was 5 to 12 midnight. And I thought I'll give it a shot. I'm going to give this a shot, And I didn't see traditions and I didn't see the steps. I never saw the word hope. Who knew the word hope? I just used to hope that I had more booze. I didn't know anything about hope and serenity and, self-pity. And, I knew how to play the victim, but I didn't know those words, um, God, grace, those sort of things, the beautiful words that are given to us today that keep us sober. Um, and I heard this woman share, and I went to the next morning. I woke up and I went to another meeting. I think I took the kids to school, and I went to another meeting. And I remember it was a Friday and I remember the sun coming in and it was a stained glass window, and I went, oh, holy crap, that's beautiful. And do you know what? I shake my head in disbelief that I haven't had a drink since then. Like I had a career of 25 years of drinking on a daily basis. And I went to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous and I haven't had a drink since then. What? How good is this? I was one of those very, very lucky people that I had the acceptance of what I was straight away. And the desire to drink was taken away from me straight away. I don't know what that's about. Threw in the towel, I don't know, grace of God, whatever. But I remember that first weekend, I had the beginner's envelope and I read it back to front, front to back. But I remember ringing my brother on the Sunday and I just said, look, I love this, but I don't know about God. And he said, Naomi, choose your own. And I went, oh, God, okay. How simple is that? Choose your own. So I swapped it all around. It's changed all my thinking to a God of my understanding, not knowing that's what I was doing. And I was off like Flynn. The first couple of weeks, I had the shakes, I had the electric fleas, and I couldn't sleep. Um, but I just put one foot in front of the other. And I remember the first couple of weeks, and I can't say I've done all this right. I'm telling you now that I went to confession, being a Catholic. I went to confession in the city. I caught the tram in, and I went to confession, and I blurted out all this stuff to the priest. He probably gave me 50 Hail Marys and 500 Our Fathers. I don't know what he gave me in penance, but he gave me something. And then I went to a meeting. Um, and then the couple of days after I got sober, I found my home group. It was a local one. And I know people, you say, oh, I don't want to go to a local meeting in case I see someone I know. I thought I'll go to a local meeting so I can go with people that I know. How good. We're all friends. Um, anyway, this home group was called Ashburton, and I tell you what, it was full to the brim of old timers, full to the brim. It was a dirty, grotty room, had ropes hanging off the ceiling and gym mats everywhere, and it was cold and dark and dingy. I tell you what, I loved it. I loved the room because all the old codgers in there were telling me, keep it simple. Don't pick up the first drink. Stay out of the old environment. Get the cotton wool out of your ears. Chuck it in your mouth. You've got nothing to say. Stay out of the old environment. What else? Take it easy. All those things. Stinking thinking leads to drinking. What you want? Microwave sobriety. You've only been here, a second, and just telling it how it is. Those old timers and banging the desk and loving me back to life. Um, and I just, yeah, I just love it. They gave me just for today card. That's not talked about very much, and I used to cut it up into bits and take one out per day and do something nice for someone, but don't let them know. Humility. I didn't know the word humility. I wrote something down the other day from a meeting I went to. Humility is the willingness to learn. I was like a sponge. I loved it. People would tell me stuff, and I say, yeah, okay, I'll do that. I had three young kids, 2, 5, and 7, say, and I couldn't just drop everything and go to meetings. And what I did is I packed up their AA bags with their AA snacks and dragged them along with me if I could. A lot of times I didn't want to take them to meetings. I didn't want them to hear stuff that, murders and jails and weighing in cupboards and all that sort of stuff. And I took them and I dragged them around. But every time they went to the dads, I was at a meeting. And sometimes I'd go to, Saturday meetings. I'd be crying on the way, oh, I'm going to an AA meeting. Pour me, pour me, pour me a drink. And then I'd get out to the meeting and there's a guy out there where I used to go and his name was Jellignite Jack. Jellignite Jack used to talk at the corner of his mouth, and his name was Jellignite because he was an old timer. Because he tried to blow up the Eltham pub. That's where he got his name from. And I used to go out there and see him, and he just, He was one of my mentors. Nickel therapy. I used to ring people. I still do today. I have to blurt it out. I didn't, the fog for me didn't lift for about 5 years. And that's when I looked at the steps for the first time. I rang people every single day and I got myself a mentor, not a sponsor so much. And her name was Gail. I had Jack, Gail, and all these old timers from my home group, and Gail, I used to ring Gail every day. And she was the sort of person that taught me, I used to say to her, look, Gail, I think I need a bloke because my toilet's broken. And she said, Naomi, you don't need a bloke, you need a plumber. Simple things like that. Because I was always looking for the quick fix. So she taught me, how to ring up and find a plumber. I taught myself to pay my bills. I taught myself to be a mother. I taught myself how to cook, how to clean a house, how to look after my kids. I got myself a job as a checkout chick, which is, I don't know whether you call them that, the people at the supermarket where you scan the thing. I was one of them. So I took my kids to school and picked them up from school because that's when they talk. I was a homebody. I wanted to be home for my kids. I wasn't bringing home strange men. I wasn't doing strange things. I was becoming a normal human being as a woman. And then today they are 30, 33, and 37, and they're all married. All got these, God bless me, they've all got these normal relationships. I look at them with admiration. They've got the tools being given to them of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they didn't even ask for it. I brought them up in a very clean, respectful home. And so they went to good schools, they had good food, and they were brought up the right way. And I never yelled at them to say, no, you can't go there. I reasoned with them. And getting a divorce too in sobriety was really bloody hard. But what I used to do, and I did it even the other day, something hit me in between the eyes, and I went straight to the book, straight to the book. What can I do? Where can I go? Page 449, third edition. I used to read it and rock and read it and rock on acceptance. Pray for the sick man. Always go to the book. Um, and also another one that my brother taught me, I hate this one, is page 90 of the 12 by 12. It is a spiritual axiom that every time we are disturbed, no matter what the cause, there is something wrong with us. Ugh, okie dokie. So that makes me look at my side of the street because I have created something here. Step one, I can't. Step two, he can. Step three, let him. Step four was, I think, around 5 years. I don't remember getting any major relief or anything like that. I've always been a talker. I've always rung people and I've always offloaded because I spent 43 years of my life hiding it and hiding behind myself. And even now, today, I've got, one or two people I trust to talk about my stuff, and then they guide me. Um, I've been to big book study groups and tradition groups, and I spend a lot of time in the Northern Hemisphere on Zoom. I love you guys. I don't know whether I don't know a lot of people. My friends don't do Zoom over in the States, but I love it, and I don't want to let you go. Um, what else? Yeah, amends to I made amends to my mum, as I said, just only a few weeks or months, years ago. But this is another one that I did that was really unusual. I mean, this is God, it's purely God. When I first got into AA, I had no idea about step eight, or step nine. And I know in about 6 months after I got sober, I was ringing my old bosses and saying, look, I'm really sorry for being a non-attendee. I'm really sorry for finishing at midday. And I'm really sorry I rung in sick 500 times. And I was just sorry for my behavior. over the years of my employment. I did that naturally, and I can do it naturally today. I remember saying sorry to my husband about a week after I got sober. I'm so sorry. And he wanted to know why I kept drinking. And I said, I don't know. I'm an alcoholic. People out there don't understand what we are, and I don't call them normal. God forbid, we're the normal ones. We're normal. We've got this 12-step program. Like we've got something really special here. Um, in COVID, look, as much as COVID was really sad, I sort of loved it because I'm an isolated introvert, extrovert. And I did a workshop, God Conscious workshop with John C. from Ontario on emotional sobriety. And he opened up my world in thinking. And today, I'm a seeker. I apologize in step 10 straight away, and I look at my day straight away. But I love the 11th step prayer. I love the 11th step. I don't do meditation in regards to ums. I do it in regards to looking at the blue sky outside, which is covered in smoke. Um, I look at it by looking at gum trees. I went to a friend's place the other day and they've got kookaburras in their trees and they're laughing and it makes me laugh. I look at it with just gratitude of going to meet a friend at 1:30 for a coffee today. How lucky am I? I've got a roof over my head. I've paid my mortgage. I've worked my heart out to get to where I've got, and I've never left AA. And I never want to leave AA. I'm in love with AA because it gives me the lessons. The lessons I've had have made me into the person I am today, and it took me a long time to get to feeling that Naomi's okay. I'm okay in myself. And it took me a long time. When I first got into Alcoholics Anonymous, I had to cut my days into quarters just to get through to the next block, and that's what I did. I took all the tools that these old timers gave me because the 24 hours when you first knew is a long bloody time. Um, and I just kept one, yeah, left, right, breathe, chop wood, carry water, keep going. It is hard. You go down that dip, but I tell you what, going down that dip, bring it on. Because that lesson when you go back up is beautiful and magical. I love it. And I've just had a lesson last week, and it was with my kids, with my grandkids. It's all my doing. I had to look at all my, that page bloody 90. I had to look at that. I was having them over for a Barbie, and I went all out, right? All out. And it was cancelled. I went down the gurgler, but I had to look at me. I'm pulling back. I've called it a reflection week, not a victim week, not a self-pity week. I'm reflecting this week on what God's trying to teach me here, and He's doing it, and I'm coming out. I have days where I think, oh, what will I do today? Like I knit and sew like my mum, carpal tunnel, so I can't do too much. And I'm just sitting with Naomi, and as I said, that I'm a sports addict, and the Australian Open's open on at the moment, so I'm reading that, looking at that all the night. Um, your guy lost the other night, your American guy. I really loved him too. I've been given the tools of Alcoholics Anonymous just to live on a daily basis with the people out there. It's not about drinking for me today. It's about living in the real world without it. It's a tough gig out there. And but I stay away from the news as much as I possibly can. I don't read newspapers. I don't understand politics, but I know what's right, what's wrong. But I just try and come back to the traditions. I love the traditions. Don't let us get into a political environment. And, I'm on Facebook and I can go blah, 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 delete, 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 walk away and go and do something positive. Um, I've been given patience and tolerance. Oh my God. It has taught me over time to be kind and compassionate. And, in today's era, when you go to a lady that's crossing the road that's old like me, Like I'm 70, nearly 71. I can't believe I'm going to be 71 next month. Oh, far out. Because I'm still a kid at heart, but I might see someone struggling with a shopping trolley, and I'll go up and say, "Would you like a hand?" And I know they look at you like you got 15 heads and they're scared that I'm going to pull a knife or something. And I said, I'm fair income. I just want to help you. Or you pick up someone's dropped something on the floor and you pick it up. Kind, compassionate. That's what AA's given me and given us perseverance. I remember Jack saying, remember ringing Jack once, and just saying, Jack, I don't know whether I'm doing this right. It was all the 6 months and I was getting nervous that I was not going to drink, but all these big words were coming at me. And he said, Naomi, it's just because you don't have any drama in your life today. And I don't have the drama. And if I do, I fix it with prayer and meditation and sit in it and learn the lessons. Love the lessons. Love the lessons. I am where I am meant to be right at this time, you know. And as I say, I feel that we're very, very, very lucky. And I hear all these gems I think it was, I think the White brothers said this one, don't let the life that AA's given you get in the way of your AA life. God, I love that because, we get well and you see it all the time out there, people getting well. They get too well too quick and they get their boyfriends or, I can't go to AA tonight. It's too hot, too cold. Whatever, such and such is on TV. I did it last night. And I said, no, no, go. You'll feel, and it washes over you straight away. Just the drive there, listen to music, window down, still got an old car, and you walk away. And I've had a conversation with a newcomer that was just beautiful. And I do have a sponsee, and she doesn't ring me. I don't ring her. So there you go. I opened a meeting just up the road here a few months ago, or last June, that had shut down pre-COVID. We're getting a great attendance. It's an old school ID AA meeting. No crap. There's no crap in there. No politics. I won't. There's three of us that open it on a Monday night, and it's beautiful. Um, Anyway, I'll leave you on this one that what Jack used to always say at the end of the meeting. God bless his soul. He's well known in Alcoholics Anonymous, and he's helped a lot of people. And he used to always close with this. Alcoholics will not open the gates of heaven, but it will shut the gates of hell. Because I believe we've all been in hell, and now we've got the opportunity to lead some beautiful lives and help some people. So thanks for letting me share today. And I hope you heard something right. And I once again apologise to people that have heard my story before. And so I know Marilyn has. And I think I saw Tom from Oz come in. Thanks, Tom. You're the best, buddy. Thanks a lot, guys. See ya.